I remember when I warned you early on. I was like, I'm going to have a lot of gift cards that I'm going to be
Yeah,
sending to you to make payments. And we kind of went through that strategies. I'm like, yep, I'm up to like $400 in gift card savings that
exactly.
I
And
got right now.
I was stunned. I was honestly stunned because I was like, this is amazing. Because mind you, I've only been doing this, for now a year, right?
Yeah.
And when Tom comes around and he's like, I've got gift cards, and I was like, you have Visa gift cards? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, we have to check these balances. I was like, this is amazing. Like,
Well, hi, and welcome to the very first episode of the Disney Done Smarter podcast, where we share tips that help you plan your Disney vacation easier, cheaper, and smarter. I'm Tom.
I'm Manisha.
And together we'll be talking about Disney vacation planning, money saving strategies, and everything you need to make your trip less stressful and more magical. Now, since this is our first podcast, Manisha, I think we should probably start by introducing ourselves, who we are. And we'll kind of jump into the podcast from there.
Sounds like a plan. Awesome.
All right. So again, my name is Tom, and I'm just a dad living up in New York who loves going to Disney. I've been going to Disney since I think it was like 4 years old. I remember
Yes.
those long, oh, you too?
Yep.
And I remember those long drives from Pennsylvania down 95, going past south of the border, with this goal of just getting to Disney. It was kind of like the National Lampoon's vacation trips. And I've been going ever since, and I just love it. And now I get to enjoy that and experience that with my daughter. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and there's something even a little bit more magical about having that experience with your own kid than when you are a kid. It's just amazing, and I love it. And one thing I learned about myself, which kind of prompted and connected Manisha and myself and prompted this podcast, is that one thing I really love about Disney as an adult and not realizing it until the last several years is I really like planning trips. I really like figuring out the vacation side of it. And even more so, I like to see how affordable it is to make a Disney trip. And I kind of been on this mission to see, what different strategies are out there, ways are there to save on a Disney trip, and how can I get that vacation as inexpensive as possible. Now, that's just a really kind way for me to say that I'm cheap and I want to find a way to, maximize money and not give up on the experience of Disney. So through this podcast, I hope to share a lot of those strategies, ideas with all of you who are planning your vacation. And Manisha, what's your story?
Well, where to begin? First and foremost, I'm pretty sure anytime I've had to go for like a blood test or anything, they're like, yeah, you bleed Disney. That's all that comes out of you 24/7. Anytime it's where do you want to go? What do you want to buy? Everything is always Disney related. But I became a travel agent with the Vacationeer. They're an earmarked diamond agency. About last year, February, very close to Valentine's Day, actually. So I'm like, it really does prove my love for all things Disney and travel for sure. And I really enjoyed my experience, being like a actual travel agent or advisor or, whatever you feel like is the most appropriate term to use. I'm very flexible with it. But I just like to call it just travel in total because I can take you anywhere and everywhere. Of course, we're just talking about Disney. But nonetheless, it can be so overwhelming for families, just to figure out, where do you even start with it? Because I think a lot of times when we are like scrolling on social media, it gets very overwhelming because you're like, oh, well, this person said I
Yeah.
should do this and this person said I should do that. And then there's this 3-2-1 rule that's been like really, buzzing around. But nonetheless, I'm here to kind of make your trip as seamless as possible from the moment that you leave your house to the moment that you get back. My number one priority is to ensure that everything goes smoothly for you guys and you have a fantastic time. A little bit about myself, excuse me. Born, brought up in New Jersey. Woohoo. And then I decided to drop my life for the love of my life, my husband. And we live in Northern Virginia now. I have a 2-year-old princess because that's exactly what she is. So I've definitely experienced going to Disney with her, excuse me, and before when she was not born yet. So definitely understand both sides of just being a fun Disney adult, just wanting to, go to Epcot, drink around the world and just, be carefree about it,
Yeah.
walking down Main Street. And then the flip side of it is, we've got the stroller, we've got diaper changes, how do we navigate this? What's the best way to, figure this out? And nonetheless, I get it. So woman to
Yeah.
woman, human to human, family member to family member. I get it, and I got you. So I hope that that's a good segue for us to kind of get started in all
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. And, and I think probably one of the themes that, we'll keep touching on, throughout the different episodes is that, you know, the Disney experience is going to be unique to you, whether you're going as a kid, whether you're going as an adult with other adults, or whether you're going as a partner. Um, Social media is really great because you can get a lot of information, but I think you can get overwhelmed very
Yeah,
easily.
definitely.
And, your Disney trip needs to be your Disney trip.
Exactly.
And, trying to replicate what somebody else did, it's almost impossible. Like
Yeah.
either from like an activity, entertainment type of thing, or from like a financial part of it, because, a Disney vacation can range from, $1,000 to, I don't know, 20,
Endless,
$30,000.
honestly, yeah, I've definitely seen both sides of it too, and it really is like, you can add on different experiences, which really does make the trip memorable, for sure, but I'm all about, like, we're making memories, like, every moment that we're together, so
Yeah.
it's not necessarily, like, where you're going, but it's who you're with, and who you get to experience that, and even if it is a solo trip to Disney, which is honestly on my bucket list, I'm like, I'd love to just go to Disney
Yeah.
by myself with no responsibilities, how cool would that be? And just to get that just to get that experience for yourself. So, I'm with you on that. Definitely.
Awesome. And I think that's a really good segue into the topic for our first episode. And we thought we'd start with a topic that probably crosses almost everybody's mind when they think about Disney. How do you plan a Disney vacation without overspending? And that could be a really monumental feat for some, but there are things that you can do and choices you can make to, be easy on the pocketbook or wallet and still have an amazing experience.
Definitely. Definitely, for sure. And I just want to say that not only because I'm a travel agent that I would speak to, my community in that regard, but when you do have the opportunity to work with a travel agent, the way that Disney operates is there is a percentage or a dollar amount. Don't quote me on that, but there's a dollar
Right.
amount or percentage that is kind of already saved for an agent. So you're kind of just helping someone's business. You're helping out someone in that way. And whether that's I just need park tickets or, I want you to hold my hand through this whole process, I'm here for you, right? So I'm not just speaking for myself. I will say that for, because there are, I mean, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're in
Right.
your grocery stores. We're on the soccer fields. We're in your neighborhood. We are in your, your corporate meetings too. We're all working this out. But needless to say, we can help you out, right? So it's not just, oh, I don't need help with an agent. It's what we can offer you. And that really is alleviating a lot of these small details because it
R-
really can just be, I just want to go to Disney and I just want to do one character dining because I think my kid would really enjoy it. Or it's, I want to do a VIP tour, I wanna meet all
yeah.
of the characters, I'm gonna only be there for 2 days, like, what's something that I really have to do, And it really does make it just as conversational as this might be to those that are listening, that it doesn't need to be overwhelming. And I wanna provide that reassurance to anyone and everyone that it's going to be a great time. Like, I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. It's gonna be a great experience for you and your loved ones. Um, and I mean, even in terms of like, why does Disney kind of feel so expensive, right? Like, let's talk about that. Like, why does it seem like, oh, well, I need to go to Disney. I need to save like, X amount of dollars. It doesn't need to, right? It doesn't need to
Hmm.
feel that way, And I think the way that you and I got connected too was really interesting in that regard too, because you were my client, right? And
Yeah.
it was, letting me know like, okay, well, this is how much your package costs and this is when it's due and you were phenomenal with your strategy.
Yeah, well, I was probably like I remember when I warned you early on. I was like, I'm gonna have a lot of gift cards that I'm gonna
Yeah.
be sending to you to make payments, and we kind of went through that strategies. I'm like, yep, I'm up to like $400 in gift card savings that
Exactly,
I
and
got right now.
I was stunned. I was honestly stunned because I was like, "This is amazing," because mind you, I've only been doing this, for now a year, right?
Yeah.
And when Tom comes around and he's like, "I've got gift cards," and I was like, "You have Visa gift cards?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "We have to check these balances." I was like, "This is amazing, like, this needs to be a thing that everybody needs to know." So it really prompted me to let my clients know, like, "Hey, you've booked your package. This is your final payment date, and hey, FYI, you could use Disney gift cards to pay this off, you know?
Yeah, and there were so many different strategies, and we'll get into a lot of this stuff, in the coming episodes. But I think my 6-day trip, and I stayed at a value resort,
Mhm.
sticking to the cheap side of me, try to give that a go. Um, but I think my total trip came to like 32, 33. It was like 4 days of
Yeah.
parks,
Yeah.
6 nights at the resort. And I think with all of the savings that I've done with like gift cards and using apps like Fetch and trying to maximize different discounts that were out there, I got it down to like almost 2,400. So it was almost like $1,000 off
Yeah.
of the what I would have just paid if I just did nothing, which is
Exactly.
fine. That $1,000 to some people might be like, that's a lot of work. I'm really not gonna put all that effort in for that.
Right.
But I think one of the things that we'll talk about is that if you want to, you can. You don't have to, but there are ways to save. And then the
Yeah.
other thing I did want to mention about Disney and travel planners, vacation planners like yourself is that I think, and I felt the same way. A lot of people, were thinking, well, if I'm spending a few thousand or $5,000 on a vacation, I don't want to pay any more for a travel agent.
Right.
And I didn't realize upfront, but it doesn't, and you mentioned it's built into the ticket costs already, but it
Yeah.
doesn't cost anybody anything to work with
Nope,
you.
not a
So
single
it's
thing. Exactly. It's just you taking the time out for us to have like, a couple initial conversations. And of course, I'm here, and it just depends on the client too. Some people are like, I want to be handheld. Some people are like, just let me know when I need to pay, and like
yeah,
and that's fine, totally fine, because I want to cater it to what you need, right? I don't
right.
want to again make this overwhelming in that regard for someone, right? Like I want to make this as easy, as smooth as necessary for them.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, what do you and you talk with a lot of people that probably are in the stage of, I'm definitely going, I need this help, or like, is this something that we can even do? Why do you think a lot of people, think, well, I'd love to go, but it's just so expensive? Um, is that something that you run into a lot?
You know, so far, I will say that I've gotten both ends of it, and I think that the families, excuse me, that don't want to spend too much money, I let them know like, hey, it's going to be based on how many days, it's going to be X amount you can expect, right? But
Right.
then there's things that you can add to it, right? So when we're talking about how much am I really spending here, I'm going to let you know how much you're going to spend on a package deal. So your package deal would consist of your resort stay and your park tickets. So that'll
Hmm.
depend. Do you want to go visit all 4 parks? How many days are you gonna be there? Do you wanna do park hopper? Do you wanna add on lightning lane? Like, all of those things, right? And those things do add up, right? Let's be honest, right? And
Yeah.
I would always modify my, itinerary or my trip planning for someone that has little ones versus ones that don't necessarily have little ones, but maybe they have like teenagers, for example, right? And like, what does that difference look like? So I think it just depends. I've seen either side of it, and I can help with either one, right? So to the point of like, having to travel with like, a little baby, and having to do like the diaper changes or like the feeds and stuff like that. It's, accommodating that too, because a lot of time these trips are just planned in advance. So
Yeah.
right now, Disney has not yet released 2027 itineraries, but they're coming soon. They're coming soon. So, people are already thinking about that, and it's wild for me to think about that too, because I'm like, I know like when I want to go, but to plan the exact date just yet, I was like, I'm
I
not sure
know.
yet.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed about Disney, which is kind of different than a lot of other resorts and or vacation spots, is that they are very, very flexible with changing your itineraries, your
Yeah,
dates.
yeah,
You need that $200 deposit, which really isn't, a whole lot when you compare it to
yeah,
the price of a cost or of
yeah.
a trip. But then if you have to make a change, you're going to change dates, or a new promotion comes up, you could just change it on the fly. And especially if
Change
you're
it.
working with a travel agent, I mean, you can
Exactly.
do it.
Yep, yep, and that's exactly, one of the perks of working with an agent too, right? Sometimes, you're calling into like, our Disney hotline is what I like to call it. And you'll be waiting on the phone for like an hour. Like it's possible, it does happen, but I can alleviate that time for you, and why
Right.
not? Why not have somebody else do, work like that for you, right? And you just get the end result. This is how much you're saving. I was actually able to save a client almost $800, 870 some dollars on one of those deals for this summer, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, no way!" And I'm like, "Yep." And guess what? You didn't pay me anything for it.
Right,
So
right.
like, why not? Why not kind of take that help? But Disney does have a handful of great promotions that they have going out right now, especially with summer. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is when you do have a package type booking. So say like, first week of April, we're going to be going, we've got the resort stay, we've got park tickets, we're going to be there for 7 days. At the end of your 7 days, you have a following 7 days to book your next trip. So to your point, and it's at a discounted rate too, because you were staying on a Disney resort property as well. So it's one of those, caveats that I always like to share with someone when they're like, I think I want to stay off property. I'm like, well, if you do stay on property, you're gonna get like 10 amazing perks. So it's just like the difference again with who it is that you're working with, what things are
Right.
important to them versus what they'd like to trade off on, if there really is, which I don't think there are, but that's just my opinion.
No,
um
I think so too. And I think this kind of gets back to the whole social media thing that we were talking about. Like there are numerous like Disney Facebook groups,
oh my gosh, yeah,
or, Instagram
yeah,
channels, and
yeah, yeah.
And it it could be very overwhelming to kind of use that as kind of a starting point for planning your vacation, because there's going to be so many different experiences, and they're all going to be different amounts. Like $5,000 to one person may seem like, a once in a lifetime trip,
Hmm.
while, people do that 2 or 3 times a year. And there's
Hmm.
people out there spending $30,000 on a trip.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think
I've
one
seen
of
it.
the I know, someday. But I think one of the biggest decision factors when it comes to booking a trip that's gonna really determine more than anything the price of your trip is probably the resort.
Definitely, yeah, yeah, for
Could you
sure.
talk a little bit about, like, the resorts choices and kind of how they differ in price-wise?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Disney's got three different um levels, I'll say. So you've got your value resorts, you've got your moderate resorts, and you've got your deluxe resorts. So it really depends, what type of experience that you'd like to have. And the great thing about all of those properties is not only is that perk that I had just shared with you, like after your checkout, like a week out, you can, book your next trip. Just putting down your $200 deposit, and you can move that date accordingly to
Yeah,
whatever works best for your schedule. But your transportation is so helpful because when you stay on Disney property, your transportation is covered. So whether that be utilizing the Disney bus transportation, or if you are driving and you are staying at or doing a car rental, but you're staying on property, um, your parking is taken care of, which is great.
mhm,
So it's one of those things that again does add up, right? So it can be a trade off. Clients that have little ones, I want to like put them in a resort where you can get access to the monorail, you can get access to the Skyliner, because what kid wouldn't love like seeing that? Like that's like the
right.
coolest thing. I mean, speaking about being a kid, I'm talking about myself. Like I'd love to get that experience again. So and then just like planning out like what parks are important to you based off of proximity, because you can do your midday breaks, and you can go back to your resort, you
Right.
can take a nap, you could attend to the kids, you could grab another coffee, and then come back and, kind of have like a little bit of a little siesta, a little recharge, and come back and you're like, okay, let's pick up where we left off.
So yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize when they try and plan their trip is to try and pack everything in as much as they can
Yeah.
into the date time that they have there. So there's the diehards that are out there that are going to want to get there at rope drop, and they're going to
Hmm.
want to stay until the end of the day.
Right.
Now, as an adult, I'm exhausted if like by lunchtime, and if
Yeah.
I try
Yeah.
to, push that entire day through,
Yeah.
and then do parks back to back to back to back, it's really tiring. So I think, when you are planning your trip, sometimes less can be a little bit more, like building in those resort days,
Yeah.
just hanging out at the pool. And that's where your resort choice might get even a little bit more meaningful. Like, if
Yeah.
you're going to spend more time at the resort, then maybe you want to put a little bit more thought into that and invest there versus trying to get, park hopper tickets for, 7 days straight.
Exactly. Exactly. So really just again making that decision and trade off, how much time do you want to spend in Orlando, and how much time do you want to actually spend in the parks, whether you're park hopping or not, whether you're there for half of the day and you come back, whatever variation that might be. And how important is where you're staying. Because if you want, like, that kind of, I like to call it the posh experience, you wanna stay at the Grand Floridian, like, it's really nice, and, you could see
Yeah.
those fireworks, and it's a beautiful experience, but there's a price tag that comes with that, so it just depends what it is that you're looking for, what kind of experience did you want, but, I feel like this might be a very bold statement, but you can't go to Disney and be disappointed. I feel like
No, no. You know,
there's there's something about it. There's something about it, so
and that's why I think a lot of people get confused too, if they're like, "Well, I'm gonna stay at the Valley Resort." Like, you're not giving up on the experience because the
right,
Valley Resorts are really, really nice, and especially
they
for
are.
kids, they have, like, huge, um,
I wanna say,
park
like,
pieces around and
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
The statues, let's call them
yeah,
statues, right?
statues,
Like,
yeah.
all of, like, the characters and stuff like that too, that really does add on to the kid experience for sure, and really does make it memorable because what they're gonna come back from that trip, they're probably gonna go back to school and be like, "Oh, I saw, like, the biggest Mickey Mouse," like, how cool
Right.
is that? Like, what kid really gets to say that? Like, that's really, really cool for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like the moderate resorts are, they're not going to be a whole lot different than the valley resorts in terms of like the rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the deluxe resorts is once you start getting into more of like a Disney vacation club type of situation where
Vibe.
you have like a
Yeah,
full kitchen and
yeah.
all that stuff, then you're starting to notice a big difference. But when you're looking at the regular hotel rooms, um, they're not a lot different
They
between
really
resort to
aren't, I
resort.
don't think so. Yeah, they're very standard, most likely, 2 queen beds or 1 king bed, the small little, like, coffee-ish area that you'll have, maybe, like, your microwave, your fridge, which is small, the fridge is small.
Yeah, they
Don't go
are. They are.
thinking there's
Yes.
a king in that fridge, it's not.
Yeah.
And, your standing shower, 2 sinks likely, and a toilet. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, so resorts are a big factor in the price of a trip, but I think the other big thing is timing.
Definitely.
So depending on when you're planning to go, that can impact the cost of your trip quite a
For sure.
bit.
For
Yeah,
sure, for sure, yeah. I have, the range of people, for example, for 2027, these clients that are kinda just patiently waiting. I'm like, "Well, when would you like to go?" And they're like, "Kinda wanna go in spring break." And I'm like, "Oh, no." I wanna go during the week of Christmas. I'm like, "No." Oh, the week of Thanksgiving. I'm like, "No, come on." So, it's
yeah,
really hard to, kind of also because most likely parents are really working off of their kids' school schedule, right? Like, let's
right,
be honest. And that definitely does add a factor of it as well. If I had the opportunity to, let a family know, like, "Hey, when do you think we should go?" My 2 choices are always the 1st week of March, which ironically is when you were traveling. I was like, "I
right,
think it would be a great time to go." Or, like, the 1st week of November. And if you wanted to incorporate, or I would say the first 2 weeks of November, like, right before Thanksgiving, but right after Halloween, which is ironically when my birthday is, so I
yeah,
love going during that time of year. You'll see, whether depending on when you're going, whether that's, seeing Halloween decorations still up or the holiday decor, starts to come out. And what a magical place to be, during the holidays. Like, that's so neat.
it really
I
is.
personally love, I don't wanna go during summer. Like, if I needed to travel in the summer, I'm not going to pick Disney. I'm gonna pick, like, an all-inclusive resort.
Right,
Just saying. I would rather be poolside than, waiting in lines and such. Um, just my opinion. And I always like to add that in there because although we're gonna talk about Disney, I'm still gonna be a human to you, and I'm gonna tell you my true opinion, and I'm not gonna steer you the wrong way, and I'm gonna be transparent with you and tell you this is what I would do if I was in your situation. So
right.
I'm just gonna put that out there just to say, the last week of February is also a great time too. The weather is a little bit cooler. And if your objective is the weather and that's why you want to go, then go in smack in the middle of summer.
Yeah, and I think, that's a really important, like, having like realistic expectations of
Yeah.
what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Because, maybe there was one point in time when it was predictable when it was going to be busy, when it was going to
Yeah.
be less busy, but
Yeah.
it's pretty
It's
busy
it's
all the
busy.
time,
It's
right?
busy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even now, I've got a couple clients that are in Disney right now too, and they chose the time frame of spring break to go. And I'm just like, checking on, wait times just to be like, maybe
Yeah,
try this one instead. Oh, this is, but nonetheless, there's still so much to do in the parks. There you got the
yeah,
parades, you've got the fireworks, you've got the entertainment, you got a little bit of shopping to do. All the snacks and treats to enjoy, of course. So I mean the time frame that you choose to go is definitely important. I think, just again, depending on whether that be your schedule, the family schedule, the kids' schedule, and the weather too, because weather in
Yeah.
Florida can be unpredictable, especially in September.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like, if no matter when you go, even if you go during, between Christmas and New Year's when it's gonna be super busy, if you can set your expectations to, like, get ready for that and
Hmm.
plan your schedule around those crowd levels,
Yeah,
you'll still have a great time, but if you
definitely.
go there expecting that I'm gonna get on every single ride that I wanna get
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
buy Lightning Lane or do any of the other
Yeah.
things, you might leave disappointed. So
Yeah.
I think just understanding what the expectations, should be for the time of year that you're going, I think is helpful. And that's something that, working with someone like you can really help people kind of understand that. Because if they're
Yeah.
choosing between going in late February or going in mid-July, be like, well, it might be a little bit less busy in July, but it's going to be like you're walking on the surface of the sun some days.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. Need
yeah,
a little
so
more sunblock.
but
For
and,
sure.
some people love it. I mean, I went to Disney as a kid, July, August every
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
and, it was hot, but I didn't mind it, it was just what it was.
Yeah, yeah. Because then at the same time, sometimes, you kinda associate that weather with that experience, right? Which
Yeah,
also makes it has its own, like, treat to it too,
it
right?
does.
So
Going to the water parks or, like,
yeah.
even, like, that experience of walking off of, like, Main Street into, like, a air-conditioned,
Oh, those
restaurant or
shops.
something, it's
Oh
like,
my goodness.
it's just like I
The
could kinda
best.
still feel that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about parks then too, because there are 4 theme parks plus 2
Mhm,
water parks that you can go to
mhm.
and a bunch of other little experiences around.
Yeah.
Um, so how does that play into determining kind of what the price of your trip's going to be? Is there a benefit to, booking a package versus, like, just booking parks separately or
So I think it kinda goes back to the same, kind of what's your preference? What is important to you? Because if you would like to get back to your room in the next, like, 30 minutes,
Mhm.
if that's important to you, then that's a different take. If you're like, "Ah, that doesn't really matter to me, and I'd rather go all the way back to the parking lot, get out in my car, do the whole thing all over again, bring it back." Like, if that's what you wanna do, that's sounds good to me, you know?
Yeah.
You're to cater to, whatever it is that you're looking for. But I definitely think that packages are the way to go. And when we say package, we're talking about your resort stay and your park tickets. And that can also be adjusted after, you make your initial booking too. As long as it's done within 30 days of your check-in date, you can modify it. You can first say, I actually want to go for 5 days. And you're like, nope, just kidding. I want to go for 7. We can modify
Yeah.
that for you. That's perfectly fine. And it also makes a difference if you want to have breaks in your days too. Excuse me, in your stay, and having time in your resort too. So it's kind of just like how much time do you want to spend in your resort? How much time do you want to spend in the parks? What is your family into? If you're like, for example, a really big Star Wars family. It's like you
Right.
definitely want to have a whole day at Hollywood Studios. You're going to enjoy it there. Whether it's the smaller characters too. Winnie the Pooh, for example, like just the cute ones. Definitely spend time, on that ride in Magic Kingdom. And I always say one thing that I do say to families is as great as Cinderella's Royal Table is at Magic Kingdom and how magical that experience is and the
Yeah.
Bibbidi Boppidi Boutique and all things girly, I'll say, right? And or princessy. I thoroughly recommend the Epcot park instead, for
Yeah.
those experiences because Magic Kingdom can get just so overwhelming for exactly those reasons, the social media aspect of it, the crowds, like for me personally as a mom now, that's too much. That's
Right.
way too much for me to have to go through. So what did we do instead? We actually went in December and we went to the Epcot park. We did the
Mhm.
Frozen ride. Right after the Frozen ride, we went and had lunch with the princesses. Amazing. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that, So that was my trade-off. I was like, "I'm not gonna spend the whole entire day in the park, but I'm gonna do what's important in terms of, like, the dining." I'm like, "'Cause this is gonna be, like, iconic for me, obviously." Yeah, my daughter, sure, but, like, really for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
know, right?
And, it was that trade-off, making, that decision because that's what was important. So, I think that each park is beautiful. Each park has its own little caveat thing that, that they can offer, depending on who is going. And if it's like we just want a little bit of everything, let's do it. Let's do a little bit of everything. And I
Yeah.
will always say for first timers that are visiting Disney World is to just do one park per day. Don't do
Okay.
park hopper. That's my
Yeah.
recommendation. When you have been, maybe 2 times, maybe now you're, maybe you have extended family that's joining you, and park hopper is kind of a little bit more of a benefit. I agree. Let's do it. So
Yeah. I think that's a really good tip too, because I mean, no matter what park you go to, it can be a multi-day experience. So like it's
yeah,
not like you're going to get to one park, blow through all the rides, do everything you want to do, and then have
yeah,
time to go to another park.
yeah,
You know, I guess one benefit, like you mentioned, like if you're familiar with, Disney and the parks, like you might say, well, I just want to go to Magic Kingdom to do this in the morning, or I want to,
yeah,
go back to Hollywood Studios for the show at night. That's an option, but trying to think that, I actually I saw this one post on Facebook, and they were like, they're flying down for a weekend, and they're like, well, I want to get park hopper for 2 days. I want to do all of the parks. Do you think I can get on all the rides? I'm like, maybe, but you're gonna be
maybe.
like,
Yeah, never say never.
you're gonna be so exhausted. Like, are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
gonna really enjoy it?
yeah.
And my daughter is 9, and one of the things that we really enjoyed this last trip that we went was doing a lot of the shows.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
our legs were tired. I don't know how many. I think we're at like 18,000 steps or so per
I
day.
know,
I
yeah,
know.
unbelievable. I
Uh,
really feel like if you wear an Apple Watch, I'll say, because I don't know about the other watches out there, but I really feel like one of the exercise things that come up on here, like, you have, running, walking, it should be
yeah,
Disney. Like, that should just be its own category
I know,
on
right?
just be
You are
like,
so right.
"That's your exercise. I'm going to Disney. That's my exercise."
Like on my Apple Watch, I can look at like my steps per month or
Yeah,
per week on like the chart for the year.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's,
yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, that's when I went to Disney
That's
there.
when I
It's
went
like
to
this
Disney.
huge like spike. Uh,
Exactly, yep, yep, I feel that, for
um,
sure.
yeah. So yeah, I think planning your park days can definitely help, because the more parks you get,
Mhm,
the more expensive it's going to be.
mhm,
But also, if you're going to add on things like lightning lanes and park hopper,
mhm.
they add up quickly. I mean, like, if you only have a few people in your family, it might not seem that much. But if you're going
Yeah.
with like a family of 5, 6, 7 people,
Yeah, it's
um,
gonna add up. It's gonna
yeah,
definitely, and that's the other thing too, which is pretty cool, that you don't need to get lightning lane for your whole trip. It doesn't necessarily need
hmm,
to work that day. You can just do it for the day, for example, and I would always recommend when you're at Magic Kingdom to
right,
utilize that, because there are a handful of fantastic rides that are on there. Of course, the iconic rides like It's a Small World, Tron, which has been so popular now, especially, and Tiana's Bayou ride, which don't forget your ponchos for that one. You're
yeah,
likely gonna get wet. But all of those rides, just because they are so popular, their wait times are just astronomical. And to kind of
yeah,
have that expectation that, well, I'm gonna, I don't know, go during rope drop, right?
yeah,
Sure, you could try, but like, are you really getting like that fun, experience of like when there hardly isn't anybody in at there, and you're able to get those really cool, like, castle pictures, like, and I always recommend that to families. I'm like,
yeah,
even if the park opens at like 8 a.m. and you're there at 9, enjoy like that just Main Street vibe, the castle area until like 9:30. I
yeah.
always recommend that, and then go do a ride and then come back for the parade at 11. That's always what I say, because you don't want to make it, to your point, that overwhelming experience. But utilizing lightning lane just for a day, I feel like sometimes that's all you need, and that's perfectly fine. And
I
even if you want to
agree.
do park hopper, similar thing, and you could again pick that to your liking. Again, it's what's important to you. What do you want to get out of this trip? So
Yeah, really good points. Yeah, and the lightning lane, there are some parks where you don't really even need it. Like
I would say,
Animal Kingdom. Like I
yeah.
don't think you like. I mean, you can get it, and it
You
might
can.
save
You
you a
can
little
you
bit of
can get it,
time.
for sure. I don't think it's needed. I think my favorite thing at Animal Kingdom, and I'll say I haven't done the Zootopia one yet, the Better After, but I loved the Bugs Life when it was part of the Tree of Life before.
Yeah.
So I haven't done Zootopia yet. So my opinion might change, but I love the Lion King show.
Oh
I
yeah, we
love
did
that show.
both.
It's
Yeah.
45 minutes, and it is the best way to cool down too. Like you get like,
Yeah.
and right when you're done, you get like a nice Mickey Mouse ice cream after. It's like it's a
Uh
whole
huh.
treat. Like, it's great. But yeah, just because it's one of those auditorium type settings, you definitely don't need lightning lane for that either. You kind of just walk on in, and you enjoy 45 minutes in the AC, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that Disney ice cream, let's transition into food and snacks, because I think that's another place where you can easily overspend.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and this last trip we went, we got the sit down dining meal plan.
Mhm.
Um,
How did you
one of
like
the
it?
it was a lot of food,
Mhm.
um, and I probably wouldn't get it again, unless because my daughter was under 9, they had a free kid dining plan
Yep, yep,
promotion.
yep, yep.
But at the end, we had so much food, like credits left over, and um, we would go to a sit down restaurant and then be like full for the rest of the day. Um, but I mean, it was really good, and I'm not discouraging anybody from getting it, but I think
Mhm.
that the fact is that if you were to order everything out of pocket, it wouldn't cost. Like if you the price of the Disney dining plan is not inherently a cost saving mechanism, is a convenience saving mechanism. So if you
Definitely.
bought all of your food at the restaurants out of pocket, it would be less or maybe, right around the same price as the dining plan.
Okay.
Um, but it was fun. Like we went to different restaurants that we probably wouldn't have gone to. We went to de France.
Nice.
Um, we did the Akershus breakfast. We went to Storybook Dining. Where else did we went to a number of other restaurants. Oh, the, Garden Grill in Epcot. So
Oh, nice.
we got to do a lot of the things we wanted to do that we probably wouldn't have chosen unless we had the dining plan.
Okay,
But from a cost perspective thing, we probably could have, if my daughter wasn't free, paid out of pocket, it would have been similar. So,
okay.
but the convenience of it's really nice. So
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Even with convenience, I utilized the mobile ordering the last time that I went in December,
How
actually.
did that work? I didn't do that.
Amazing. It was, like, the coolest and easiest thing ever, and I felt so bad for all of the people that I saw waiting in line. I was like, "Well," like, use the app next time."
Right?
Because it's really just that simple. It's just a click, click, and, there you go, and it's similar if you have or haven't used Lightning Lane, you'll know that it's within a bracket of time. So you have
Yeah.
a time frame that you come back and you say, "Up, this is my order number. I'm here and I'm ready for it," and you just pick it up and you just keep on moving.
Okay.
So definitely traveling with kiddos, definitely recommend that for sure. They have this partnership, I think, with the Cuties brand, the little mandarin or clementine oranges,
Yeah.
which because they're grown in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And my daughter loves them.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is sweet." Like, you just get them with every meal, and I just have, like, a whole bunch of cuties in my backpack, these little oranges are just rolling around in my bag. But,
Yeah.
I think that for dining per se, one cost saving tip is definitely you can bring your own food into the parks. That's perfectly okay.
Oh, yeah, and
Whether that
you
be
and not just, like, granola bars. I mean, you could bring, like, sandwiches in, like, anything you
yeah.
want, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you have a cooler, you can just pack it on in there. You got a nice turkey and cheese sandwich. You've got some
Yeah.
PB&Js, things to keep the kiddos occupied for sure because they're all about eating just 24/7. They're just keep feeding them and they're perfectly fine and they don't realize, they don't realize the time, the heat, anything like that. Which I think is really, really great because I feel like if you had to wait in line for food, you're kind of wasting your time, right?
You are,
So
yeah.
to the point of, either you can bring your own food, you can bring your snacks and stuff. And, maybe it's just I wanted to get like, a Joffrey's coffee, like, something
Yeah.
that's iconic to the park or like, that churro, the Mickey churro or um the pretzel or the Dole Whip, all of those fun things that
Yeah.
are kind of iconic and really what, like, makes your trip complete, and I will blame social media for that because the posts that I see about, like, you have to get this snack and you have to get that one, you don't have to. You don't have
Right.
to. I just wanna put that out there, it's cool to experience it for sure, but don't make that your priority. That would just be
Yeah.
my recommendation.
Yeah, and, one thing I found out, like, with the dining plan, with the snack credits, I wish you could just buy a dining plan with for snack credits because some of the snacks are just amazing,
For
and
sure, for sure.
yeah, and so we had a bunch of snacks left over at the end because we just weren't able to use them. I mean, we
Yeah,
did eventually just get stuff and, take stuff with us, but,
yeah.
um, one thing I didn't realize it on the first day, but the second day, I normally just drink, plain black coffee.
Mhm.
So I was going to Starbucks and somebody's like, "Oh, you can get whatever you want." I was like, and I'm somebody I don't even know how to order at Starbucks.
Yeah.
I get so, like, stressed out by, is it venti,
I don't know
grande?
how
Which
to
one's
act
bigger? Which
anymore.
one? No, but by the end of the trip, I was ordering like, I'll take a venti, cold coffee, whipped cream, extra. But I was getting like these really fancy like coffee drinks at
Sure, sure,
Starbucks,
sure.
and I was starting my day every day with that. I was like, oh, this
Huh.
is love it. So I came back, and then I was like in like withdrawal from like
I bet, I bet.
Starbucks.
Yeah, yeah. That's also something that I feel like people don't talk about that, right? Like, you get so hyped for your trip. You know when you're gonna go. You go and you get to experience it, and then your trip ends, and then you have to come back home, and it's like,
Yeah.
this stinks. Like, can we go back again? And that's what that bounce back offer also really is
Well,
great.
that I mean, Disney's not dumb about that because they know that
They know what they're doing.
that immediate thought you have when you get home, you're just like, "I wanna be back there,"
Yeah.
and they give you a very good incentive to rebook it, which again is like you mentioned, is a really good time. Like, even if you think you're gonna go or that you may
Mhm.
go ahead and book it, and if you can, like, decide maybe like a month down the road, you're like, "Yeah, maybe not this year." You can
Yeah.
cancel
Yeah.
and get your
Yeah.
refund.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing that I would always recommend to people, and this is new to me too, I will say, is that if you want to take advantage of that offer, that you do it more than 60 days from your current date, because 60 days is when your dining reservations open. So do it more than 60 days
Oh,
out so
gotcha.
you can kind of plan accordingly, if, that's of interest to you. So
Yeah.
just a
And
tidbit.
then one other thing about the bounce back offer is I know they give you like until the end of the year or a set time frame to book it. So
Mhm.
like if you say you're like you want to book it for, 18 months out, but the window that you have to book it doesn't include that. Is it true that you can book it for within the time frame and then modify those reservations for a later date?
You can do that.
Okay.
Yep, which is why I always feel like you should just take advantage of the offer.
Right.
Just, I feel like, at some point, whether that be this year or next year, you're gonna come back to Disney. You can't stay away from them that long.
Right. Well, that's the other thing to I think it's really important for people to keep in mind is the cost of going to Disney and the price of a resort or the price of a park or the price of the food, it's not going to go down. It's only going to go up. And Disney has like set times during the year when they increase their prices.
Mhm.
So even if you think you might go, it's better to book early just to have that reservation made because when that
Right.
price goes up, you're locked into the price you booked at. And that same trip
That's a great
might
point. Yeah.
be hundreds of dollars more,
Mhm.
if you wait to book it. And you can always cancel
Exactly.
if something happens and you don't
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, yeah. At least you do have the chance of going back. Like, it's there, it's in the calendar. It
Yeah.
might just happen, So I think that that's pretty cool. And one other thing, I wanted to share, I'm sorry, I know that we segued from this already, but, the lightning lane piece. So, as we mentioned that is a separate charge. It
Uh-huh.
is a different dollar amount. So, you can use Disney gift cards to pay for that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Genius,
Yeah.
absolutely genius. Because it's one of those things, right? Like, you have a birthday or you have, like, a something, or, you're just going to the store and, you're going to Target and just pick up something. It's like, I'm just gonna grab a $25 gift card this time, and I'm just gonna
Yeah.
save it and apply it to my Lightning Lane specifically. That's
Well,
genius.
that's the thing about Target, and I won't talk about gift cards too much on this episode, but one thing is that if you have a Target Red card, you can get every day of the year 5% off of a Disney gift card. So if you are spending, $3,000 on a Disney vacation and
Mhm.
you just buy the Disney gift cards at Target with your Red card, which is basically a debit card,
Yeah,
you can look at that as 5% off of the cost of your trip.
absolutely genius.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. And then there's certain times of the year where they'll have like maybe you can get 10% off using a different promotion or
Mhm.
Sam's Club or Costco or
Yeah.
BJ's. There's all these different times of the year when you can get some deep savings. Right around between November and Christmas time, like the Black Friday type deals.
Mhm.
You typically can get some really good savings. So we'll cover that in another episode. But you're exactly right. Like you get anything that you buy at Disney, you can pay with a gift card, I think. And you could always get those gift cards discounted.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think it's all dining just in total is just kind of where, what's again, it's what matters to you. If you have a couple of snacks in your bag and you're good to go and we're going to have a dining experience with some characters, that's amazing and I love that for you. And I think that that's one thing that I actually do encourage families. I'm like, you should just try one. Just try one because if you didn't feel
Yeah.
like you get to see any characters while you're in the park because you're occupied with other things, maybe you're attending to the kids, whatever the situation scenario might be, when you get to do a sit down meal, they
Hmm.
come to your table, and that's really memorable and pretty neat too. So I
They
always
do.
encourage.
And like in every, like there, pretty much any character that you want to see, there is a sit down meal with
Yeah,
those characters that will come visit you. So,
exactly.
if you have a kid that is just, crazed over princesses or Stitch or Mickey, you can
Yeah.
go to a
Winnie the
sit
Pooh and
down.
Friends. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And they spend time with the kids too. It's not, and
Yes.
adults too, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they it's not just like, "Hey, how's it going?" They move on to the next
And then they're
table.
off.
I mean,
Right,
yeah, no, they
right.
spend a lot of time in it's really great for the kids,
Definitely.
and adults too, I guess, right?
We're still kids too, I
Yeah.
always say.
All right. Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is we touched on like the surface of a lot of topics that I hopefully we can dive into at later dates. But I think, Disney can feel very overwhelming. It can feel very expensive,
Yeah,
but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, and you can do it in a way that's not super expensive. I think what I would suggest for anybody that is new to planning a trip, and if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I don't think I could do it on my own, Manisha, that's where you come into play
absolutely.
here. I think
Absolutely.
working with a travel agent, it's free, doesn't cost you one penny, but the resources you get out of it are um, i- incredible. And the other thing I'll mention about that, if you do book a trip, and I think you mentioned it during the summer, one of your clients, if you book a trip and a better deal comes along the way, you're keeping an eye out on all of these
Yep,
deals. So you'd be like, oh, we could
absolutely.
save this person $500, or what you said,
Yeah,
$800.
yeah, and who
Um,
doesn't want that back in their pocket? Like, why
exactly.
who would say no to that?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and even with, your payment dates too, say you plan on going in December, 30 days out from that is when you need final payment to be made. You have the whole year, well, now we're in March, but
Yeah.
you've got time to make those payments, whether you wanna make weekly payments, monthly payments, whatever variation that you want it to be, we can make that happen for you. And that makes it as easy as exactly just whether that be a text message, "Every Friday, can you please charge $100 to my account?" Done,
Yeah.
I'll send you that confirmation to you. It's done. You don't need to think about it. It's just you're kind of just on autopilot, and I will let you know if by chance there's an issue, there's a problem, whatever, but you get that confirmation and it's done and done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, yeah. Well, how does somebody get in touch with you if they have some questions?
Absolutely. So I've got my phone number, of course, 732-439-7808. My email address, Manisha at vacationeer.com. Follow me along on my Instagram page, my Facebook page, same Manisha's Magical Getaways. Um, That's me, and I look forward
Okay.
to chatting up again with you.
Okay, and we'll go ahead. We'll put all that contact information on the screen. We'll put it down
Absolutely.
in the show notes as well.
Yes.
And then if you are listening to this, great. This is our first podcast. So go ahead, subscribe, and we'll send out a notification when there's new episodes that come out. If you have any questions or topics that you want to ask, reach out to Manisha, leave a comment below. But we'll try and see if we can structure some of these conversations about things that people really want to hear about or questions that they
Absolutely.
have. There's so much information about Disney out there.
There
And,
really is.
I think we don't want to just kind of say the same thing that everybody else is saying. So if there are things that like you're having a hard time understanding or you want other tips, let us know. And then have those episodes that focus on that.
There you go.
All
Exactly.
right.
Thanks so much, Tom. I really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to doing this again.
Me too. All right. Take care. And we'll see you maybe down at Disney one of these days.
There you go. Down on Main Street. I'll see you there.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.